For the continuation of behaviorism, let us move on to Thorndike and Skinner. The learning theory of Thorndike represents the original SR framework of behavioral psychology, in which learning is association forming between stimuli and responses. More than 100 years ago, he wrote a textbook entitled Educational Psychology. He was the first one to use this term. Such associations of habits become strengthened or weakened by the nature and frequency of SR pairings. The behavioral responses of connectionism theory to specific stimuli are established through a process of trial and error learning, in which certain responses come to dominate others due to rewards. The hallmark of connectionism was that learning could be adequately explained without referring to any unobservable internal states. So there are three primary laws associated with this theory, namely law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. The primary law of learning, according to him, is the law of readiness or the law of action tendency, which means that learning takes place when an action tendency is aroused through preparatory adjustment, set, or attitude. Readiness means a preparation of action. If one is not prepared to learn, learning cannot be automatically instilled in him. For example, unless the typist, in order to learn typing, prepares himself to start, he would not make much progress in a lethargic and unprepared manner. The law of exercise had two parts, the law of use and the law of disuse. This law stated that connections grow stronger when used, where strength is defined as vigor and duration, as well as the frequency of its making, and grow weaker when not used. Examples in this case are learning to drive a motorcycle, singing, that needs exercise and repetition of various movements and actions many times. And the third law is the law of effect, which states responses which occurred just prior to satisfying state of affairs are more likely to be repeated, and responses just prior to an annoying state of affairs are more likely not to be repeated. In his experiment in this law, the box was enclosed but contained a small lever that, when pressed, would allow the animal to escape. Thorndike placed a cat inside the puzzle box and then placed a piece of meat outside the box. He observes the animal's effort to escape and obtain the food. Eventually, the cat presses the lever and the door opens, then the animal receives the reward. Even though first pressing lever occurred simply by accident, the cats became likely to repeat it because they had received an award immediately after performing the action. Thorndike noted that with each trial, the cats became much faster at opening the door. Because pressing the lever had led to a favorable outcome, the cats were much more likely to perform the behavior again in the future. Additional laws and principles of Thorndike's learning theory. Multiple response or varied reaction. When faced with a problem, an animal will try one response after another until it finds success. If the individual wants to solve a puzzle, he is to try different ways rather than mechanically persisting in the same way. Set or attitude. Learning is guided by a total set or attitude of the organisms, which determines not only what the person will do but what will satisfy or annoy him. Example is when a student, unless he sets and has the attitude of being at the top, would while away at the time and would not learn much. Hence, learning is affected more in the individual if he is set to learn more or to excel. Partial activity or propotency of elements. According to this law, the learner reacts selectively to the important or essential in this situation and neglects the other features or elements which may be irrelevant or non-essential. The ability to deal with essential or the relevant part of the situation makes analytical and insightful learning possible. The law of response by analogy. According to this law, the individual make use of old experiences or acquisition while learning a new situation. There is a tendency to utilize common elements in the new situation as existed in a similar past situation. Example, the learning of driving motorcycle is facilitated by the earlier acquired skill of riding a bicycle because of the perspective of maintaining a balance. The law of associative shifting. According to this law, we may get a response of which a learner is capable, associated with any other situation to which he is sensitive. The work of Boris Frederick Skinner was rooted in a view that classical conditioning was far too simplistic to be complete explanation of complex human behavior. He believed that the best way to understand the behavior is to look at the causes of an action and its consequences. He called this approach operant conditioning. Operant conditioning deals with operant, intentional actions that have an effect on the surrounding environment. Skinner set out to identify the processes which made certain operant behaviors more less likely to occur. Skinner is regarded as the father of operant conditioning, but his work was based on Thorndike's law of effect. According to this principle, behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated, and behavior followed by unpleasant consequences is less likely to be repeated. Skinner introduced the new term of the law of effect as reinforcement. A Skinner box, which is similar to Thorndike's puzzle box, also known as an operant conditioning chamber, is a device used to objectively record an animal's behavior in a compressed time frame. An animal can be rewarded or punished for engaging in a certain behavior in such a way that the lever was pressed. B.F. Skinner coined the term operant conditioning. It means roughly changing of behavior by the use of reinforcement, which is given after the desired response. Skinner identified three types of responses of operant that can follow behavior: neutral operants, reinforcers, and punishers. Neutral operants is a response from the environment that neither increase nor decrease the probability of a behavior. Reinforcer is the response from the environment that increase the probability of a behavior being repeated. Positive reinforcement strengthens a behavior by providing consequence an individual finds rewarding. For example, if your mother gives you 5 pesos each time you complete your homework, you will be more likely to repeat this behavior in the future, thus strengthening the behavior of completing your homework. Negative reinforcement. Removal of unpleasant reinforce can strengthen behavior because it is removal of an adverse stimulus which is rewarding to an animal person. For example, if you did not complete the homework, you give your mother 5 pesos. You will complete your homework to avoid paying 5, thus strengthening the behavior of completing your homework. Punishers responses from the environment that decrease the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. Punishments weakens behavior. And that ends my report. Thank you so much.